Hello everyone, I guess hopefully you're having a wonderful day. Today we are here with another PWCC weekly review where I go through the top of 100 soccer items auctioned off this week on the PWCC site. Of course, as always, if you enjoy the videos, make sure to leave a like. Helps me, helps the channel. Would appreciate it greatly. With that said, let's go ahead and get into it. This week sort of follows along the similar lines of last week where we're below $100. Tactically, I've decided to split this up into two pages. One page of 50, another page of 50, and essentially we'll go through the first page a little bit quicker since, I'd still like to go through some of this, but there is a lot of it that, I might want to avoid. For instance, starting off here, this is kind of a cool early soccer item, or at least it looks like soccer. I'm unsure why he's carrying that with his hand, but nonetheless, it sort of mimics the Bane Shield designs you'll see in the past. Working above it, though, again, nothing really too crazy I want to talk about here. I thought an out of 199 Rashford, I guess it's PSA 10, but still, pretty high number going for nearly 100 isn't too bad. Keeping it moving, going on up, we have a 1942 Sastre there going for nearly 90. The treble Iker Casillas tries to sell again. We'll see if it goes. There is a blue Bruno Fernandes that is in here as well. I think there's a gold that we'll find later. Presumably a removed, or I guess it says no back, so yeah, removed Zinedine Zidane goes for $98. I'm always sort of interested in how that plays out because a lot of people say that the stickers are rare, and the stickers are rare unstuck, but if we start talking stuck copies, they're really not that rare, so, pops could get really high in that sense if we're doing, like, authentic grades and all that jazz. Keeping it moving, though, on-card Di Maria, a fun 80s Maradona. This I thought was, kind of cheap. I actually looked it up, and this tried to resell for basically the same price. It did get ran a couple weeks prior, presumably unpaid, and here we are. I was pretty interested in this. I know the hype sort of craze the last year was the Reds, and, to think that the third best player of the generation has a somewhat desirable 2020 Merlin Red going for 100 in a PSA 9, I thought was pretty, low. Looking at comps, there's actually been a PSA 10 that sold for the same price, which makes this seem kind of high, but, who knows. Keeping it moving, going above that, we have a Wayne Rooney PSA 9. That was the first one I looked up. This was 103. Last sale was 170. Best offer last month, so on offers, you're always going to get more than on auction, so that's pretty fair. Last auction before this was 264, so that's down quite a bit. One of the players I'm surprised that doesn't really seem to have any collectors is Wayne Rooney. He does have some, to be fair, I do see some on social media, but just generally compared to, what you would have expected, I would have thought that Wayne Rooney would have been one of the most collected players when I got into this because, he was so big for such a big span of time at Man U, and it would have seemed like he had all the makings of a big player, but in terms of collectability, at least for the time being, not really. I might make a video about that, sort of comparing him to, say, like a Modric or a KDB, not in terms of necessarily the same type of player, but a player that, is really, really beloved by a club and at a certain point in time, but maybe that doesn't hold. That would be something that I think is interesting. I do think the love of Wayne Rooney is still there, but the collector base isn't as fervent as they probably once were. Especially if we would have had, booming soccer times that coincided with Wayne Rooney's sort of career. Keeping it moving past, I do like the Crescent Signatures Alan Shearer. I like the set in general. It's sort of a mix between low and high-end in the sense that it's on-card autos, but it's not really like a high-end set, so it has the high-end autos, but without the high-end price tag, really. But that's a base one going for 108. Above that, we have a few odd ends here. Ronaldo, a Neeskens, and a Hamrin. I always like the look of the 78 World Cup items. This Platini PS8 goes for 110. This Bobby Moore, again, a pretty high price. I remember seeing, we looked at comps, and some of these go for an insane amount, probably because of Shield, but this one still goes for a decent amount, and I'm unsure as to if that's legit or not. A couple of Lifas in the row above that, along with the 2007 Cristiano Ronaldo. This Roberto Carlos out of 10 International Ink goes for 132, which, doesn't seem crazy for an out of 10 Prism auto, but obviously post-playing career. Speaking of Wayne Rooney, this is these are the types of cards where I do wonder, why is this going for 50% more than his rookie sticker and really high grade, right? This is a post-playing career Leaf sticker auto. To me, that's essentially a nothing. I would much rather have the sticker even at a lesser price, and so I wonder if maybe there's just something there that we're not seeing. Topps Chrome Green, Bruno Fernandes goes for $150 in a BGS 9. Pretty fun card for him considering it's early, also color match. Got a Bloomer and a Ronaldo to finish off the row there as well. And as we sort of get to the top, I did look up this one. This is a 2017 Cristiano Ronaldo PSA 10. Wanted to see how that's been doing in card ladders. Actually, nice enough to have a graph of this, so I do appreciate it. I looked over 2 years because, I thought it kind of gave a better sort of look at what's going on here. I might have to zoom out just a tad. Yeah, there we go. So basically, really the main point of note is sort of the World Cup of 2022. I think that's when essentially most everything bottomed and you can get a good range from there. So that was at, 160, 180 at the time. It's basically at 160, 180 now. So, from the low, Ronaldo hasn't really gone up, but he also hasn't gone down despite going to Saudi and not really being beloved in the hobby, it would seem. The Topps Chrome Refractor PSA 10 still holding strong at basically the same price as it's been for the last year and a half at this point. Christian Pulisic PSA 10 Select. I always am surprised by how much these multicolor prisms go for it. Personally, I like the die-cut numbered stuff a lot more, and, I wouldn't pay a premium for a 10 of a, non-numbered color, but yeah, people seem to like it, and I got no problem with it. 97 Thierry Henry PSA 6. This goes for $174. I looked this one up as well because I was just interested. Last PSA 5 went for $164, so I guess relative to that, it seems like a little bit of a deal. And when you go around and look, basically, they have been sort of going down a good bit. 168 in the last 2 sales. So actually, compared to that, it's up just a tiny bit. But these had a march down in 2023 and 2022, like a lot of things. One thing I do find of note is that, before soccer boomed, these weren't really cared about at all. 2018, there's a sale here for a PSA 8 for $20. Soccer's not entirely like that. You might say, oh, well, before the boom, people weren't collecting, now they are collecting, so it's a whole different world. Sort of true, but there are other areas where things are very, very close. So to say that, we went from a PSA 8 being worth $20 to what is now a PSA 6 being worth $170, I think that's quite a significant gain given where we were. Sure, these might be down from some of the all-time high prices, but net, I still think they're in a pretty good spot. Of course, you also have the Russian version that's a bit more rare and, more desirable, I guess, in the rarity sense, but personally, I like the Spanish as well. Keeping it moving, we have a mix and match of a Pele and Messi next to Henry. And finishing off page 1, we have a PSA 10 Cristiano Ronaldo Refractor, another one to match the one we saw earlier. This 97 Zidane foot card, like the look of these. And finally, a Paul Scholes Nobility Auto to match the Alan Shearer we saw earlier. So that is it for page 1. Let's go to page 2. So on page 1, starting from the bottom, working our way up, we start with a Messi PSA 7 from 2006-2007. Like the colors on it, not a card people talk about all too much, but basically everything Messi people care a little bit about. 1958 Titulares team photo here of Brazil going for nearly $200. We have a matchups PSA 9, Messi and Ronaldo going for $200 as well. It seems like a good price for a base card. I'm sure these are down, but $200 for an insert base PSA 9 is about as good as you're going to get, it feels like. I couldn't name you another insert base that sells for that type of money, and if there was to be one, this would feel like it should be the one. Keeping it moving above that, though, we have a 2022 Pele Auto. I thought this was really low, but then you look at the P and it's just really messed up, so I sort of get it. But $216 for a Pele Auto is pretty cheap, I will say that. 2020 Sapphire Yellow Messi goes for $216 out of 99. Again, I always like to sort of use, say, the Sapphire, for instance, in terms of proof that people don't necessarily love collecting every year Topps Chrome or, a Messi out of 99 PSA 10 Topps Chrome Sapphire sounds like a big money card, at least to me, knowing what I know about Chrome and how people sort of love and adore that. This is in a Barca kit and it goes for $216, which means raw, typically my mind says a third of the price for a raw from a 10. So if this was raw, in theory, I'm seeing $70, which doesn't seem like anything crazy for, a Messi Topps Chrome Sapphire numbered card in a Barca kit, but maybe that's just me. I don't know how other people see it, but that's really how I see it, is I wouldn't mind going back a couple years and getting a Sapphire numbered in high grade rather than maybe chasing first year, second year Topps Chrome or whatever, people might be chasing of the moment. Feels like right now Chrome and treble and those types of things are what are, holding the spotlight, but will that change? Time will tell. We have a 43-44 44 Bruguera Zara here, going for 216 and a PSA 3 pop 1 of 2, none higher. Love the colors on that. Very nice looking Zara there from 43. We have the Bruno Fernandes Gold that I mentioned earlier, going for 222. Didn't seem like a huge premium over the blue. Given that we saw the blue, it was probably a little over 100, so to pay a little over 200 for gold doesn't seem like a bad multiplier. Maybe I don't quite understand, but at least to me, this 2021 Topps UEFA Stars Align in Paris card, I know it's just sort of the big three in Paris, but they didn't do much. I'd much rather have this yellow Messi, it feels like to me, than something along these lines, but to each their own. That goes for 228. We have a Puskás signed photograph here going for 250. It does go off the photograph, I guess, at the end, but to me, that doesn't seem like a bad price at all. You don't see a ton of Puskás autos and, autos of that era, so being able to get a good one and on, a nice little photo isn't too bad for 250. I mean, it seems pretty fair to me. Above that, you got a couple Hollands. You can take your pick between the two. I'd be interested in what people think, although I guess this is a BGS 6.5. I didn't really notice that at first, but yeah, sticker auto from the treble winning year, or you could just get his true rookie sticker for basically, yeah, exactly the same price. So depends what you want. Pop 1 of 1 on the BGS auto, just for everyone's note. We have a 1958 Pele in action going for 250 and a PSA 2.5. Above that, this seemed like a decent price. PSA 6 of the white rookie for Messi going for 264, next to a 2006 Ronaldo and a 10, and an Alifa team photo PSA 1. Above that, we have the Kylian Mbappe 2017 Panini 365 going for 300. I did take a peek at this, and apparently this was a really high price. Last sale, apparently, I'll say it again, goes for 133. Now I say apparently because the sale before that did 391. I mean, this looks like the same picture to me. Unsure. I'm guessing the 133 is the real sale. 391's not. This one goes for 126. This one goes for 147. Apparently before that it went for 370 on fixed price. Hard to really know, but basically 300 looks really, really strong. I'm unsure if that's, I'm going to assume it's legitimate. We'll see if it gets reran or not, but that could just be, maybe someone going off of the 300 comp prior that wasn't a true comp and sort of using that as a way to justify, him moving to Real Madrid. We're gonna do the mental gymnastics of having Mbappe to Real Madrid for like the third year in a row, and everyone's gonna get excited, and we're gonna see if actually this time it pans out. But time will tell. PSA 9 Buffon goes for 312. I took a look at this as well, just to sort of see. Last PSA 7 best offer did 70, so compared to that seems like a really good sale. Almost 4 times the price on auction for one grade higher. PSA 8 before that also apparently did 155. So yeah, these are down. I mean, best offer in February 2023 went for 375, so getting near that right now on auction doesn't seem too bad. It seems like a decent sale, I would say. This PSA 10 Ronaldo goes for 320. I love the 2010 World Cup cards. This and the Messi just look really, really good. I've never even had one in hand, but apparently that's a good thing because base cards suck and everyone hates base cards, so I should be able to just buy one day for like $2, but who knows. Nonetheless, I think they're really nice looking cards, and so this Ronaldo 2010 going for 320 feels like a fun one. Above that, we have a few more fun ones. Speaking of, so this is a second year Panini Football of R9 going for 372. This is a rookie Iniesta that goes for 408. I looked that one up because you don't see it all too often. Last price apparently was fixed price for a PSA 5 or an SGC 5, excuse me, and that went for 175. So an SGC 7 going for double the price doesn't seem bad, really. When we look back at past comps, a PSA 8 on fixed price did 600 last year. So, a SGC 7 on auction doing near that speaks pretty well of this card, I would say. Also, something of note, I don't know what to make of this, but basically you'll see a ton of golden auctions, and all of the certs are very, very close. My assumption would be that this probably got faked. I don't know if it did, but when I just see 5 to 10 all sold through the same auction house, all sold within the same cert range, it just makes me really, really nervous, especially for a sticker like this. It's supposed to be pretty rare to see, so many of them sell off within the same cert, at the same consignor. It just doesn't look good, is the way I'd put it. So, maybe that speaks to it, and maybe that's why it's sort of rebounding, since, maybe there's just less fakes being sold. Luckily, those are in PSA slabs, so if they are fake, we'll find out one day, and people will get their money back. If not, more the merrier. Glad people got the cards. Nonetheless, seems like a pretty good sale, I'll say that. PSA 5 R9 goes for $408. Looking back on past sales here, we have an auction in November for $325, an auction last year in May for $360, and you got to go all the way back to March and December of 2023 and 2022 to sort of find these prices. So this is getting back closer to 2022 days, which is, pretty impressive. I sort of think within the last few auctions, and especially in this one, you're seeing most everything sort of ticking up, which is fun if you own them. If you're someone that doesn't own them, like for me, I don't own any in this row. I would like to get them. To be honest, I'm not the biggest R9 guy, but I do love the Panini sticker. I think that it is just such a classic one. So going for $408, that seems like a good price. Above that, we have a 77 here of Socrates and an SGC4 going for $408. Next to it, we have a 1934 Adolfo Pedernera from the 1936 Lays set that goes for $408 and an SGC1. Ton of fun South American stars within the set, and this is certainly one of them, so it gets a pretty decent price, even though, obviously it looks pretty beaten up. You can see sort of some wrinkles in there, but generally speaking, that's what you sort of expect for this type of an issue, so nothing outside of the ordinary. And then next to it, equally as important in footballing history, of course, is Christian Pulisic. We have an out of 22 from the impeccable jersey numbered set, where basically you can see his jersey number up there. It's numbered out of his jersey number. People like it. The impeccable set has a lot of fun sort of niche autos that people really like, depending on if it's club or player specific. There's just sort of some fun, meaningful type of cards made in there. And so I think that that's one that obviously gets a good premium for that. Above it, we have a 2018 Finest Ronaldo sticker auto. We have a Messi PSA. I looked up comps on this. I couldn't make any sense of it whatsoever. So if we look here, basically, this goes for $508. A 7 did 60, a 9 OC, which in my opinion is basically a 7, did 200, which seems, again, really high. But if we start to basically work our way back, last PSA 9 did 264 in December of last year. So I don't know, maybe it was just a gross overpay. I would assume we see that get reran, but I am not certain. We also have a 1978 Socrates, Pedro Trotta, that went for $456 here. Authentic altered evidence of trimming. So yeah, looking back at past sales, big increase over the last one. The last authentic altered did $288 in a PSA slab. This one, basically has no borders, so you can really tell that was trimmed. I think, so this one has a good amount of a border, so it's got white. This one's just green. Maybe that plays a factor, but it is basically 2 times over the last comp, which isn't anything too shabby. Also notably, in 2013 in June, there was a PSA 1 that went for $914, so, given that, I guess an authentic altered for $500 seems like a pretty good price, or a good sale at least. Moving on up, this PSA 7 Campy O goes for $500. Sort of the way I've always viewed it, or the way it's been, I guess, for a bit, is that PSA 8s are $500. Now, maybe the blue is sort of getting a premium. The blue Campy O, maybe more in particular, is getting a premium. But seeing a 7 go for $500 seems pretty high. We have a Grinch-Vecchi PSA 1 with an eye appeal that goes for $500. There was a couple sales during the week on eBay. There was a PSA 1 that had just really good color, really good eye appeal that went for a little over $500, maybe close to $600, and then there was an authentic altar that went for about $200. So ultimately, this seems pretty fair. There was a PSA 1 we saw sell earlier this year. Well, I guess, middle of last year is a better way to put that. That sold for like $200 to $300. So it seems like PSA 1s of this are up quite a bit as well. It seems like they've bottomed out, which is sad because I still want one, and, maybe I should have grabbed this one. The hopes for me would be I get one with nice color. That's really what I care about the most out of anything. So, if possible, I'll be trying to make that happen. Another Cristiano Ronaldo sticker auto here from the Manchester United Run It Back days. We have a 98 Xavi. This is the rarest of the Xavi. In my opinion, not the best looking of the Xavis. I think it's pretty poor in that regard, but it is a Panini sticker. Notably on this one, you can tell it's a Photoshop, and you have this really white face on what seems to be a pretty tan, or at least darkened area of the field and a player, so it just really stands out. It looks kind of egregious, but it is the rarest, and by a good ways, so for that reason, it gets a good premium, goes for $504 there. Looking back at past sales, I think we do have some, so we have a PSA 3 that went for $250, last PSA 9 did apparently $2,000, PSA 8 did $1,600, so all that given, I don't know how you make a CSG 7 comparison. I don't know where that sort of fits in. to me feels like a little bit light of a price, but at the same time, it's hard to really tell with this type of stuff, so I think it's fair. Next to the Buffon, we have a 1904 Cato's Cigarettes Geo Smith Footballers. PSA 2 goes for $528, pop 1 to 3 for higher. Always love seeing some pre-war and getting some more notes on that, so $530 there for the Geo Smith. This 62 Pele, I haven't seen very much, if at all, at least scrolling through the PWCC weeklies. This goes for $576. Really like the design on this. Always prefer the smaller slabs, but unsure if it was possible in this scenario, but nonetheless, really, really nice looking Pele. We have a 22-23 Merlin Match Ball Jude Bellingham going for $630. Again, not much to add. I guess kind of a cool part of the Match Ball, maybe. I do think that Match Balls offer much better patches than a lot of other things comparatively, but still, it doesn't really get me going, especially for $630. You can buy a lot of really good stuff in soccer for $630. I think a sort of random Jude auto probably isn't the way to go, but given the moment of time we're at, I understand why people think that. Then next to the Jude, we have a Pele 1970 PSA 6. This goes for $660. Looking back at comps, this is about where they've been at. I didn't look it up and want to show it because there's just a ton of different backs, but basically, in terms of what I could find, this was smack dab on where they've been, so nothing too crazy in that regard. This row is quite a fun one. We have a 1965 Bergman Beckenbauer PSA 4 that goes for $700. That's, within the range. PWCC eye appeal as well. I thought this one looked pretty fair. The eye appeal sticker, it is a nice looking one, I will say. The corners are pretty well rubbed. The back's also pretty clean, at least from what I could tell. So for me, I usually like to see a clean back and rough corners. That shows, at least to me, that it seems more likely it wasn't put into an album. So for that, $700 for this doesn't seem all too shabby. We have this Optic Gold Cristiano Ronaldo PSA 8 that sold again. Basically, we saw the PSA 9 and an 8 sell together collectively a couple weeks back. The PSA 8, I'm pretty sure, sold for like $500, and the 9 sold for $1,000. Apparently now the 8 gets reran and sells for almost as much as the 9 sold for the first time. So that just seems crazy to me. But who knows? We'll see how that plays out. This Gareth Bale PSA 9, I'm pretty sure got reran, and I'm also pretty sure that the last price we saw was basically around this one as well. Goes for $870. Maradona SGC 3 above it sells for $1,000. I thought this was a really interesting topic because I looked back at comps and basically, PSA 3 with a qualifier did $550. PSA 3 before that did $1,100. So, all in all, seems pretty fair. The 78 cracked Maradonas, you will see, there are some really, really bad ones. Like, all threes are not created equal. Sure, this might be a 3. It's obviously, like diamond cut and has just a terrible look to it, depending on the printing. SGC 3 sold on golden, though, and this is what I was interested about, right? So this is what would appear to be, a really, really white, good color. You barely see any yellow there. That's a pretty solid Diego Maradona. And this is the same exact one, but if you look at the picture, it doesn't look like it, right? And so that's sort of the thing that gets me with golden. Golden, for some reason, just absolutely distorts what their items look like. And I think it's to the point where it's egregious. Like, it is, I don't know if fraud's the right word, and it's probably not, so, I'm not using it. But I'm just saying, my lord, that is such just a difference in terms of the quality of card and what you're looking at. So looking at the cert 287 5882, 287 5882. So it is the same, and to me, those just look incredibly different. Notably, in terms of sales price, this sold for $1,200. This sold for $1,000. And, in this one, I think it's a really nice looking Maradona, but the yellow is a bit distracting, and that does happen on these versions every now and then, so it's typical, but it's not something I would prefer, but it isn't too fuzzy of a picture, so I think it's a nice Maradona, a nice 3, and a decent price. Seems pretty fair to me. I actually have a lower graded one. I might want to upgrade to a higher grade copy, given the price point these are at. I think that the 78 Maradona is just an amazing one that doesn't get talked about too much, so... or at least relative to most things, right? We have a 62 Pele here from the Itacorpa. I see these a decent bit, at least I have lately. This is a PSA 2, just 2 graded higher, pop 1 of 4. Nice looking Pele from 62 and gets a good price also for that. $1,050 there, not too shabby. Notably, we are in the top 10. This was number 9, this is number 8, and at number 7, we have a Galactic Ronaldo. BGS 95 goes for $1,100. So, you might see $1,100 and think, wow, that's a high price, right? Or maybe you think it's a low price. I don't know. But, to most people, they probably see $1,000 modern card unnumbered and are like, wow, that's a good price. And, typically I'd agree. On the Galactics, though, this has actually just gotten battered. So this Ronaldo goes for $1,000. I think it's the same one. I could be wrong. The last one went for $2,850 via the PWCC best offer in 2023 last year. Now, I'm unsure if someone actually bought this off PWCC last September and then turned around and flipped it and sold it right now. I don't know. It makes me wonder if that's a false comp to try to keep comps. I have no clue. But even that's big down from the last one. I mean, the last one was $4,600, and the last one before that was $6,200. So $6,200 in 2020. If you don't know, $6,200 in August 2020 for a soccer card was massive. Sure, there was some Prism craziness going on at that time, but there were not many cards selling for $6,200 in soccer at that time. And now it's down to $1,000, which, just goes to show how crazy it is. Notably also, if we go to the very beginning, right here, right, 2017, it went for $630. I think, personally, Galactics are at least like a Cristiano Ronaldo Galactic, a Messi Galactic. We'll see one here in a second. I think these are, incredibly underrated in comparison to other sets people care about. Why? Because these barely sell at all. You don't see them. And back when they came out, they were worth a ton. $630 back then is a ton. I've talked about it before. The treble Messi out of 10 green went for like $60 back then at this time era before the boom in 2019. In 2019, a treble green Messi, which apparently now is the grail of all grails, that went for $50. This Panini Revolution Galactic Ronaldo was going for $630 out of the gate. I mean, that is a whole different hemisphere of what cards are, and no one cares now. No one cares. That's the funny part. No one cares. Don't see anyone talk about it. No one cares at all. And, if I cared a little bit more, if I cared to get into Modern, maybe I'd pick Galactic as my thing. Maybe that'd be me, but I really don't, and so I probably won't, but I just don't get it. And, it makes me a bit worried for other things where it's like, yeah, at one point in time, people cared a lot, right? People were paying $700 when $700 in soccer could probably have gotten you like PSA 9 to 10 of like Messi 71 bases. Maybe not a 10, but at least a 9, and probably high grades of some other things. It would just be unthinkable now. And back then, if you held this throughout the entire soccer boom, you made less than 50%, and that's just absolutely crazy when you look at other modern cards and they're up thousands of percent, and it's all just due to narrative. It's all just due to, what people are talking about. And the funny part is the people that talk about these things then get into other things and start talking about new things. And so we all just go through this cycle of just, it's just a cat and mouse game that we're playing, and I don't like it, but that's why I don't play it. I just don't want to be a part of it. Nonetheless, we'll keep it moving. I like the Galactic, so I will say it's one of the few things in Modern I actually think looks really, really good. I think it's pretty special, and I think a Ronaldo in the Real Madrid kit right here looks so good. So if you bought that, congrats. I don't congrats a lot of numbered buyers, but I think that's a fun one. I guess it's also not numbered, but you get my point. Nonetheless, 2020, we have a Mosaic Choice Black Gold. Lionel Messi goes for $1,200, numbered out of 8. This Lev Yashin here, we have a Higher-Lay BVG 7 that goes for $1,300. So you don't see 7s, 8s, these types of grades at all, really, in Higher-Lay, or very, very rarely. So this is a pretty good one. $1,300, also, pretty good price. It's sort of baked in. But looking back at sales, so we have a PSA 8. I want to look this up because, PSA 8 went for $600 in June of 2020. Again, June of 2020, $600, pretty good price. But yeah, $600 back then, which from then, it's quite up. A BVG 7 compared to this, selling for 2 to 3 times that. That's no joke. But the BVG 7 did sell before in 2023 for $1,067, and I don't know if it's the same copy because we don't have a picture on eBay, but it looks like it's up 20% over the last year, which is pretty impressive for a BVG slab. I know people aren't high on BVG, but it's a nice looking Higher-Lay, and love the Yashin from this set. Just so good. The kit just looks great. The background, it's just, it's so good. So $1,260 there. Congrats to the buyer. Congrats to the seller. Looks like a fun one. We have a 2020 Erling Haaland auto here going for $1,410. Just pop 1 to 3 too higher. And then we break into the top 3 here. Some fun talking points. You got a Messi, you got a Ronaldo, and you got an Iniesta. So to get started, Messi Galactic, looking back on past sales, Last one was 2100, as we just saw. Before that, we had 5500 last year in July, so that is a huge dip from there. If we go further back and further back, basically you'll see back in the day, in January of 2020, a 9.5 sold for 1200. Again, January of 2020, basically nothing had happened in soccer. It's really, sort of March, April, May, and then towards the summer where you start to see some of the huge runs. So in January of 2020, this is almost pre-boom pricing. And that was 1200, and now it's 2100, which is obviously, again, a nice boost, but in totality, that's very little, if anything, compared to the world of numbered Messi, Ronaldo, all that jazz. So again, I think relatively, even though this is a really high price for a modern card, to me, it's one of the ones that actually sort of makes sense and might even seem undervalued. But maybe I'm not the one to speak on it, and it's very, very particular, just like all numbered things are. You have to have enough people wanting them compared to the amount of people that have them, and it's just really a matter of whether that ratio is playing out. And typically when when a set is in a hype cycle, there's way more people that want it than have it, but once it's sort of out of that cycle, there's way more people that have it than want it, and so it shifts so quickly. But with the Galactics, nothing really happening. It's just sort of staying the course, I guess. Next up, we have the 2004 SP Authentic Sign of the Times Ronaldo. This is a PSA 9. So looking back at past sales of this one, this goes for $2,800. Last one on eBay did $3,700, $3,900. Also, I would say both of these are, it did get relisted. I don't know if both of them are fake sales or not. I have no clue. But that is something you have to sort of pay attention to in this world of just really, really high-end cards and sort of how it plays out, right? So all-time high sale apparently is $15,000, which is crazy to think about for a PSA 9. But again, you want to go back 2016, this was worth $670. So think about that too. That Cristiano Ronaldo Galactic that was selling for $600, $700 back in the day, that could have also bought you this at the time. So, and this is a PSA 10. That's a huge world apart in terms of, the type of card, especially how we view it now, right? If you ask someone now, would you rather have a Galactic or this and a 10? It's this and a 10 without a question, without a single thought. So it goes to show how quick things can change. But yeah, from a PSA 10 being worth $670 to a PSA 9 being worth $15,000, you can see how that's probably a bit too much of a change in 5 years, and thus it's sort of drawn more out of the woodwork, and they sort of come back down in price. But still, $2,900 for PSA 9, Auto 6. I didn't even realize that auto grade on there. That's a disgusting auto grade. But to be fair, if you look at the other stickers, it looks like all of these are disgusting. So I doubt that you're getting a lot of high auto grades. Nonetheless, does a decent price, I would say, given sort of where it's at. And then that takes us to the granddaddy of them all, which, if you want to explain this, go ahead and comment down below. Try to make it make sense to me. Personally, this is a big reason why I don't like the modern world and why I don't like the world of low-numbered stuff. We sort of seen it already. Malicious individuals or individuals without the cleanest of spirits typically tend to hang out around these types of cards, and then typically shady things happen around these types of cards, and so for me, it's just something I want to stay away from entirely because I don't like the scene, and this might be why. So basically, I don't know what happened. In a PWCC Weekly, we saw 3 reds go in the January 21st weekly. We saw the Iniesta, the Muller, and the Gareth Bale, I'm pretty sure. The Gareth Bale sold for like $800, had to get reran, sold for basically the same. The Muller sold for $1,700, highest price in the auction, and this sold for $1,100, which sure seems relatively low compared to the Muller. The Muller sold for $17, this one sold for, $11, but then it gets reran because presumably unpaid, and then it sells for almost 4 times as much, which is just crazy. And I don't know how to explain it. I don't know what you guys think the explanation is. I guess the easy one is just to say it's shilled, and that, who would pay 3 to 4 times what the comp went for and then got relisted for. I don't know. None of it really makes sense to me, especially, you have sales last year, an autograph version and a BGS 910 sold for $1,300, an auto 1010 sold for $1,500. So to think someone's paying, 2 to 3 times the price for a PSA 9 unautoed is just, I don't know. It just baffles me, and, this is why I don't like this type of stuff, to be honest, because you have so few comps to go off of that if any shady individuals want to go ahead and mess around, they can. And also, again, looking through past sales, old prices, This is a PSA 8 red out of 10 Iniesta. It sold for $80 back in the day. $80. Basically no one really cared, you know? Like it is a nice card, $80, you know, nothing to scoff at. It's the price of like a video game, right? You could either buy Call of Duty back in the day or you could buy this red. And now, you know, it goes for $1,000, maybe $4,000 depending on who's bidding on your particular auction, but obviously, it's jersey number. You could add that premium in, but presumably people would have added it in the original sale, so I got no clue. Make of it what you will. Would love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments in terms of what was going on there. But yeah, another fun week, another week with quite a lot of items. I still, you know, enjoy every single one of these weeks. I think that no matter if there's a ton of high-end stuff coming out or not really, there's still always fun stuff to talk about in soccer. It just goes so deep. And going to next weekly, you know, no lackluster cards here started at least. You know, not the best of the best in terms of grade, but still some really good cards. BGS 871 Bis, PSA 6 Ronaldo Mega Cracks. You have a PSA 2.5 Tupanamba. A really high-grade TTT. I don't know what's with these, but this is a really high-grade one coming out. Pop 1 of 6, just 3 higher. A really cool Cristiano Ronaldo Gold on-card select. A nice patch here from Virgil van Dijk. Keeping it moving downwards, we got surfboard slabs for no reason, always a fun time. And then sort of gets into a bit more of the murky area, which is really, really interesting for me. I think this Phil Foden's getting reran. I'm pretty sure we saw that already, but yeah, it'll be fun to see how it plays out. Again, this is a week where it doesn't look like we're going to have a ton of great stuff in the middle, but the high and the low is going to thrive yet again, so that's always a good time. But yeah, a ton of fun stuff, so hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like, would appreciate it greatly. Anything you want to tell me or others, would love to see in a comment down below. And if you want to see more videos like this as soon as I go live, make sure to subscribe. But with that said, hopefully you have a wonderful day, and